Okay, so here we go. I'm going to give you the overview of homeopathy. So I will say, usually when I give a talk on homeopathy, I'll say it's ancient and future medicine. So just to let you know, homeopathy was used in the Spanish flu, which seems like the remedies that were used then are still going to be very effective right now. And I'm not going to say 100% of the time. If someone has some serious condition, you know, they may need an antibiotic or they may need to go to a regular hospital. So if you have something serious, no matter what you're doing, of course, you can't breathe, you're hemorrhaging, kids with high fever, you need to go to your physician or emergency room and follow up on that. However, homeopathy, why it's different is because it doesn't matter if the virus is mutating. Homeopathy is based on stimulating the person's own healing mechanism, their own life force, their own immune system. So the same homeopathic medicines that have worked for generations are still here to help us. We're not trying to wipe out the bacteria or virus. We're trying to find the right resonance to help each person heal. So it's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Now, what is homeopathy? Homeopathy is a safe, effective system of natural medicine used by millions of people worldwide for more than 200 years. Homeopathic medicines are prepared from natural sources, actually plants, minerals, some animal products, which they're usually made safely from the milk or from a feather, and so on. And they are recognized by the US, the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, and non-toxic, and used even with infants, children, adults in pregnancy, where we can't even use herbs, and even with animals, so it doesn't involve any kind of belief system. This is an overview just to say, as human beings, we have our physical bodies, we have emotions, thoughts, our individual self, connection to some higher form of knowing, other relationships within the human family and other kingdoms in nature. And homeopathy draws on all these kingdoms, the mineral, the plant kingdom, to help in treatment. We're all connected, and these resources have been here forever to help us. Homeopathy is a medical specialty that treats the whole person. So we're not focusing on one symptom, whereas in traditional medicine, often you would have a medicine for a headache, something else for a skin rash or a steroid, something else for depression. With homeopathy, whether it's an acute illness like a cold or flu, or something more chronic like more severe migraines or anxiety, we're always looking at the whole person to find that symptom pattern, which is a reflection of the imbalance in that person. So treatment, homeopathic treatment, is going to affect the whole person to stimulate, again, their innate healing system. And there are different words for this. I know some of you do other alternative medicine or acupuncture. So we're working with that system. We can say one's cellular intelligence, such as, you know, if you cut your finger, if you're relatively healthy, how does your body, how do the cells know how to heal that cut? You know, if you keep it clean and so on, oh, it knows how to heal. That's what we're working with. Sometimes people will call this the energy system around us, the chi, or one's electromagnetic field. And there are devices, EEGs, EMGs, that measure electricity. More and more we're aware of living in a sea of energies, electromagnetic energies and others. And I'll just quickly say this example, a 44-year-old person that had a skin rash, eczema. He came in for treatment and didn't talk about his depression, but the first month he came back after treatment and he started to say how his depression was so much better. Well, you know, I mean, he was a guy and didn't talk about that, but he looked happier and now he was doing better at his university job, and his skin rash was worse, which was actually a good sign, because homeopathically we're looking to heal the whole person. We're not focused on just chopping out one body part or eradicating one symptom. Everything's connected. So we want the deeper organs, the deeper physical organs, and deeper emotional and mental states to get better first, to heal from the inside out. And so the return of the skin rash was actually going in the direction we wanted, the body coming out of that state of suppression, the deeper symptoms healing first, And then a couple months later, that whole skin rash that had been there for 20 years healed. So that's an example of body-mind healing. In homeopathy, the definition of health is, this is one definition, but from a very world-famous fellow, George Vithoulkas, who really brought homeopathy back into this country again, starting in the 70s and 80s, and a bunch of other homeopaths that I also trained with who founded the Hahnemann College of Homeopathy and others. But I like this definition. It was very inspiring. Health is freedom from pain in the physical body, having attained a state of well-being, freedom from passion on the emotional plane, that is, excessive emotional extremes, being caught just in too much anger or too much fear, for example, having as a result a dynamic state of serenity and calmness, and also freedom from, let's say, too much egotism, selfishness in the mental sphere, having as a result, when you're really healthy, a state of unification with truth. Well, I'm very idealistic, and that sounds good to me, but that's the direction. So homeopaths who really learn how to do constitutional treatment, they really want to help people in a very deep way to say that we're more than just a collection of symptoms. And as we're healing, we want to get out of pain, find emotional balance, mentally have clarity of thought, and so on. And we're really free, then our own life force is flowing. We're able to pursue our highest passions, be connected to our creativity, and so on, and live life in ways that are really very profound. So homeopathy, the word homeo means similar or like. Pathy means suffering. Homeopathy is the science and art of healing according to the law of similars, or in Latin, similia similibus curantur. It works with the symptom pattern and with the body towards cure rather than suppressing a problem or symptom. Traditional or allopathic, allo means other, has such treatment as anti-inflammatories, antidepressants, and so on. And I'll also say, in doing this work, that there are times where people need antibiotics. There are times when, if we're not finding the right remedy, people need antidepressants, or they're on a particular treatment, and as they get healthier, they may want to do homeopathy. So this can be something you can work with in an integrative way. So that's really important. And again, talking about the flu, if someone had severe asthma and they had a flu, and you were trying to do something natural, I mean, I see this happen too, where people try to be too pure and do everything natural, and someone's going down the tubes, and you need to get some other traditional care. So I just want to interface that again, okay? So I've seen miracles with homeopathy, but also we need to hold this in balance, and it's a very good thing. We have, good emergency rooms. So just to keep that in mind. And Samuel Hahnemann was a German physician that 200 years ago brought homeopathy into clinical practice. He was a doctor who saw what was happening in that day as being rather barbaric, and he wanted to find a more humane system of medicine. So he happened upon Peruvian bark, china, and experimented with that and found that it would cause the symptoms of intermittent fever, chills, fever, malaria. And when he potentized it, that is, took the substance, diluted it, shaking it in between with shearing forces and serial dilution, that same remedy could now cure someone with malaria. So this is really how it started. And when we talk about ancient medicine, this goes back to other traditions, really early traditions of healing on the planet, and also even with traditional medicine to the time of Hippocrates, if you want to say the 5th century BC, the father of medicine, the father of the whole traditional system now as we see it. He also used the law of similars, like curing like, as well as Paracelsus, who was a 16th century physician, looking at structure and function also in this way. So some of these principles are ancient and even go back further in India and in other cultures. Homeopathy in the United States, if you want to know and read more, there's a 3-volume series by Harris Coulter. In the 3rd volume, you'll see on your handout, it says the book Divided Legacy, Volume 3. And it talks about this whole issue of homeopathy and regular medicine at the turn of the century in this country. So again, there were 1/4 physicians who were homeopaths, 22 homeopathic medical schools, and 100 homeopathic hospitals. The first medical foundation in this, AIH, the American Institute of Homeopathy, and then the AMA was founded in 1846, for political reasons. So they started fighting early on, and it's been happening ever since. And the other report, the Flexner report, came out and said doctors, wouldn't be able to practice. So a lot of the homeopathic programs slowed down at that point, but it has flourished in other parts of the world. So again, this law of similars means like should cure likes. Any substance that can produce a totality of symptoms in a healthy person can cure that totality of symptoms in a sick person. This is based on the concept of resonance in the field of vibrational or energy medicine. Homeopathy is an energetic treatment system. So if someone needs, for example, a homeopathic medicine made from a plant, an alkaloid, say belladonna, they're going to be in a state as if they had ingested the chemical belladonna with delirium, high fever, sudden acute symptoms, red inflammation, ear, face, head. And the homeopathic version of belladonna, which will be made in a homeopathic pharmacy, taken in small quantity and diluted 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, shaken in between, which is applying shearing forces, succussion. That's done by hand. It's also done by machines to create different strengths or potencies of homeopathic remedies. So the homeopathic preparation of belladonna would help someone who presented in that state as if they were in a belladonna state. It's like a wake-up call to that person's healing system then. They're given that vibration, really, of the substance, and their system begins to respond like a wake-up call. If you're on tilt going this way, if someone gave you a little more push, you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, I'm falling, and correct yourself. We'll talk more about some of these other remedies in a minute. So just know, symptoms are the best attempt of the body and mind to heal itself. When symptoms are really severe and we don't have enough strength, symptoms can eventually kill us. But in the beginning, they're here for a purpose. So we want to work with that pattern. If you have a lot of time out in the sun and you're having a sense of thirst or a headache, if you're going to go into heat exhaustion or have a heat stroke, you want to get out of the sun. If you develop thirst, it's because you need water. If you ingest a poison and start to vomit or get diarrhea, it's because the body's trying to get out the poisonous substance. So treatment should work with our natural defense mechanism to complete the cure in a gentle and safe manner. So I talked a little bit about that other example, the man with the skin rash and depression. And with homeopathy, we have a very practical method of working. We're watching over time the direction of healing. So from above, downward, from within, outward, and from the more serious organs to the less, and going back over time. So in working with someone, when they have chronic symptoms, whether that's asthma or allergies or anxiety or depression, we're watching them heal as if they were just kind of unwinding through the years. And their own life force is doing that, hopefully from the deeper states first, which are more life-threatening. So often we'll see children, the other way around is, if a child has a skin rash, has suppressive treatment or steroids, and ends up with asthma, a lot of other inhalers, and maybe eventually later they have other problems or emotional struggles. We're looking at them healing with their energy system, their emotional well-being, and often their asthma. And it's not uncommon that an early skin rash again might come back as the body's healing in that direction. And through that, then they're also going to be healthier into the future and more vibrant. So the philosophy is, again, we do not become sick in part. The whole person ends up in a state of imbalance. And the mind and body are showing us the signals, the signs, but they're not the origin of the illness. So this is a little stretch if we're just used to the Western model of just having a physical body or just our emotional symptoms. We have to go beyond that and imagine a blueprint like an electromagnetic field, our energy system. And it's not too much of a stretch. Again, people might have had an EKG or an EEG. You know, we're connected by energy as well as chemicals and molecules. But that's the level at which homeopathy is working. Carrying energy and information for that person to basically heal themselves. The medicines, again, have been around for a long time, and they are FDA regulated and used from all the kingdoms in nature. But I'll just highlight, this is not herbology, which means if we use an herb, and there are some herbs that I will use, it's still a chemical product. So if someone is pregnant, they can't use them. Homeopathic remedies are diluted beyond Avogadro's number, which simply means there are no longer any chemical molecules left beyond what's called the 12th C dilution. An X dilution means 1 to 10. A C dilution means 1 to 100. By the time you've done that in a homeopathic pharmacy 12 times, there are no longer any chemical molecules left, which means the products are not going to have side effects with other medicines, and they're safe to use with infants and even in pregnancy. So again, if you're looking over the counter, some of you may have seen some remedies. If you haven't, they're usually, you can look at them over at places like Whole Foods or some other regular pharmacies now, actually. The Barone Pharmacy has these little blue tubes, and they have little white pills in them. And the Hahnemann Pharmacy, which is a more professional pharmacy that I use, have these little brown amber bottles. If someone hasn't seen, actually you can see them through the brown bottle better. Don't open it, but you'll see they're little white pellets. If anybody wants to look at them, if they have never seen a homeopathic remedy, you can pass that around. So again, as they're made in the homeopathic pharmacies, they're diluted 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. The C strength is stronger than the X. So usually if someone's trying to buy a remedy over the counter, I'll usually suggest they get a C, and over the counter they're usually made as 6 or 12 or 30C. If someone is just starting out with homeopathy, they may want to start with just a 6 or 12C, but typically for something like the flu, I'll say just go ahead and get a 30C, which means 30 times the remedy has been diluted 1 to 100, and each time in between it's shaken to do this, apply shearing forces, which basically changes the structure of the substance in the water. It changes, if you will, if you can get an image of a crystal, like a snowflake, and every time you dilute it and shake it, that crystal or snowflake breaks open more and starts forming bigger crystals. And that's really what's there if you look under an electron microscope. And that's what's carrying the information. It's becoming more diluted, but actually more powerful energetically. And each remedy, in essence, will carry a different frequency. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this tonight, but there's a whole bunch of other information in the field of liquid crystal physics, where they're doing work with coherent water clusters, which carry information and are made in a similar way. There's some slides here. These presentations were made at the National Center for Homeopathy, one of their annual meetings. Clustered water does have a resonant frequency, and it depends on what you start with, what substance is in there. Homeopathy, again, is an empirical science. It means it's very practical, and we're looking at what happens if you take something, what happens to your symptoms. But it's also an energetic treatment system. And there are other references that you can refer to. Some of you may already know about Emoto's work, Hidden Messages in Water, where they found molecules of water. They don't even need other substances in them. They can be affected by even thoughts and feelings, and you can take pictures of different crystals in the water, different energetic patterns. So that's the realm that's really ancient healing and future medicine. And there are other references here too that you can refer to read more about this. So I want to move forward. Again, what is being treated is our energetic system, our innate healing system. And at a practical level, we're going to observe the person's symptoms, their physical symptoms, their emotional symptoms, mental symptoms. And when we're taking a person's case in homeopathy, we're going to look at other issues too. For example, their temperament, their dreams, their energy level, food cravings or aversions, even shifts in consciousness over time. And this will tell us if we're on track with the right homeopathic medicine or remedy, or if we need a different one. So there are two categories of treatment. We can look at this also with regular medicine too. One is acute, which means self-limiting conditions. Homeopathy is used for things like colds or flu, acute food poisoning, earaches, otitis media that are time-limited. And homeopathy is also used for chronic or constitutional treatment for persisting symptoms or patterns over time. So usually we're using the lower potencies, 6 or 12 or 30C, 2 pills, 3 times a day, away from any taste in your mouth for acute conditions. And the other medicines are used usually by homeopathic doctors in higher strengths. And it's a little more complicated. Usually that requires more training to work with. But we'll use potencies 200, 1M, 1,000, 10,000, and so on. The chronic conditions, well, we're going to focus on the flu tonight. Just so you know, constitutional homeopathy can help with a number of conditions as well. So from physical, emotional, mental, allergies, asthma, bronchitis, all kinds of female issues, PMS, menstrual problems, urinary, chronic fatigue, many things like this. And usually people come in and they have a lot going on, or they're tired, they have chronic fatigue, they might be down, have joint aches. So typically these days there could be a whole array of symptoms. Along with that, also a number of emotional states can be assisted, from anxiety to depression to ADD to insomnia, mood swings, post-traumatic stress. There are even homeopathic medicines for codependency. So people will be less of a victim, get stronger. So very interesting. And people over time can shift in consciousness. So I saw this when I was training in homeopathy in my training program with other physicians and chiropractors and acupuncturists, that the most rewarding thing with homeopathic treatment not only is to get out of acute symptoms, but to watch people over time. You can see their eyes change. You can see their energy raise, their spirits raise, and they're just not stuck in old patterns. Their awareness, their consciousness is shifting. So this very other fascinating level of homeopathy is present. We okay right now? Any question? Okay. So when we're prescribing homeopathically, to do it in the classical way, we're going to look for one remedy. It's based on provings where a healthy person is given a substance in a group, usually homeopathic medical students. They'll take a plant or a mineral, or it might be a remedy from a bird. That would be a bird feather, something like that. It's prepared homeopathically, and they take it on the little pellets in a low dose. And then they observe what symptoms are developed, different than their usual state. Where do they get a symptom? What side of the body? A certain mood change, what makes a symptom better or worse. If they had a sore throat, is it better with hot or cold drinks? What kind of dreams do they have? Many things like this. And all of that information is compiled as well as looking at patterns. And that's what homeopaths use when someone comes into their office to find which remedy is going to be suited to help them. So we look at the totality of symptoms, use a single remedy most of the time in a minimal dose. Over the counter, you will find some homeopathic remedies that are combination remedies with low strengths of different ones. Occasionally that will help, and it's kind of like a shotgun approach. If the right remedy is in there, it may help you, and that's okay for something minor. But if you're not getting well, just know that you may need a more specific remedy, a more specific homeopathic medicine. As we would with any case or any situation, we want to look at the sensation. If it's a headache, what's the location? Is the sensation pulsing or throbbing or burning? What are the modalities? That means, is it going to be better with pressure or better with no pressure? And concomitants means what else is going on? Does someone have the headache, but every time they get the headache, they also have diarrhea or a mood change? So what else goes with it?